Are you happy? And what kind of happy are you? Happiness is something that every human person yearns for, longs for, strategizes for. But we're not entirely clear as to what makes us happy. In the video today, I want to walk with you through 4 different levels of happiness. And at the end, I hope that we are together in discovering that this 4th level of happiness is something that will make all the difference in the world, make all the difference in eternity for us. So stay tuned and let's get happier. Happiness. What is it? Aristotle, we want to go back to long ago time. Aristotle would tell us that happiness is the meaning of life. It's the source of the life's ambition. It is the one thing for which we can aim. Everything else is instrumental in getting to happiness. Happiness is the goal for Aristotle. We can debate that and nuance it. Maybe it's too bold of a statement, but I think it is clear to us that one of the elements of God's plan for us is that we flourish. And part of flourishing is, in fact, to be happy. That's part of being the human person. So, at a very fundamental level, what is happiness? Is a double cheeseburger happiness? Well, it is when I'm hungry. I love double cheeseburgers. I don't get enough. In its appropriate circumstances will make me happy. Happiness is partially defined perhaps as the satisfaction of a desire. When I'm hungry, when I'm thirsty, I want food. I want water. I am a biological unit. I have this flesh that is part of who I am. Satisfying those needs of this biological unit is a level 1 happiness. It's a satisfaction of this physical need. That's level 1 happiness. And we know that feeding and satisfying the fleshy part of me, although necessary, is not sufficient. That won't give me happiness long term. It ignores the other dimension of myself, one of the other dimensions at least, and that is the psyche, the ego, that I have this need as a human person, body and soul and mind, that the level 1 happiness, although it's necessary, as I say, doesn't take account of the fact that I have ego needs, that I have desires about my person, my psyche. And I can be in a level 2 kind of happiness where I am competitive with you, where I measure the win and loss record. I measure myself against you or anybody else in the world. Who is the strongest, the smartest, the bravest, the most beautiful, who has the most connections, you name it, those things that we can compete on. The ego-driven form of happiness drives us to excel and to compete and to succeed. Again, depending on the degree to which we are excessive in this kind of happiness, it may serve its purpose, but this is the second level of happiness where I am judging myself in comparison to others, and when I'm winning, I feel happy because that ego desire of mine is being satisfied. Now, it's no surprise to us that the level 2 form of happiness, this ego-driven thing, is not a long-term strategy. It's not a full statement of happiness, because it ignores the fact that there are other creatures, other human beings around me. It ignores the relational part of me. The level 3 form of happiness is a step above, if you will. It's a more advanced form of happiness where I become empathic. I become compassionate and concerned and cognizant of the fact that there are others with me on the journey. And I come to see that their joys and their sorrows are my joys and my sorrows. And it's not so much that, it's not at all at level 3 happiness that I need to have me be happy. I need to avoid sorrow. Rather, it's more important for my happiness to see that the one I love, the ones with whom I journey in life, that they are doing well. And seeing that kind of success in others, that well-being in others, is what gives me happiness. We know this form of happiness, this level 3 form of happiness, very well. Anybody who has loved anybody, who is a parent, who is a spouse, who is in relationship with any person, it steps beyond this ego-driven competition and moves to a level where I want to know what's good for you. And what's good for you is good for me, and that brings me joy. That's the level 3 kind of happiness, and there's more to say about that. Now, one of the manifestations, this experience of level 3 happiness, takes us not only to our families, but beyond that as well. So, for instance, stocking the shelves at the food pantry, serving in the soup kitchen, doing acts of charity for others, to be the Little League coach, to attend the PTA, to be interested in the local library, the neighborhood, the local government. So we're taking ourselves outside of our own small-ish world, a very small world actually. It's me. It's taking me beyond that ego of my own into a broader arena, and to be concerned about things larger than myself. And when I see those other entities, institutions, what have you, when we see them thrive, well, then that's a good thing. That makes me happy. And I can sustain myself. If I've got a cheeseburger or not, even a double cheeseburger, that's not so important anymore. Nor is it as important that I'm winning. Rather, at the level 3 happiness, I come to rejoice when those whom I love in a broader area of concern, focus of a concern, when that thrives, when that flourishes, well, that makes me feel good. That makes me happy. Level 3. But now, wait, as good as level 3 happiness sounds, we have to ask, is there more? And here's a thought experiment, if you will. Suppose you are a United States Senator. That's pretty much at the apex of the ability to do things for other people. Senator appropriately doing his or her job. But there's almost a limitless ability to be involved in other people's lives, to be promoting legislation that can make a real difference for people, that can make the world, not just this country, but the whole world and people who suffer. You can have a hand in that and move that project forward. That's this expanded beyond one's own ego kind of happiness. But wait, is that all there is, to ask the musical question? Is that sufficient? Or is there not yet the prospect, the possibility that this very powerful United States Senator can, in the quiet moments of his or her life, still feel an emptiness or a loneliness or a meaninglessness? Power, even power exercised well for the benefit of the other, is not necessarily going to provide you with the comfort of responding to eternal questions. Serving people to the nth degree, and as praiseworthy as that might be, does not deal with eternal truths. It does not necessarily deal with what is good, what is true, and what is beautiful. And without those kinds of transcendentals, so-called, there is this potential for this cosmic emptiness and loneliness and alienation. Level 3, beautiful indeed, probably where most of us find ourselves, truth be told. But we're not finished yet. We're not yet ready to rest and say, I've figured out happiness. There's more to come. Now, in thinking about this level 3 happiness and its insufficiency, I'm coming to remember that great line from St. Augustine of Hippo, back in the 4th century. The sterling line from Augustine, Lord, you have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in thee. So Augustine, here was a guy with this fabulous education, the great orator, a very successful guy. He'd satisfied his level 1 and 2 sorts of hungers, level 1 and 2 happiness. He was engaged in public life as an orator, an advocate. So he's in level 3. But yet, our hearts are restless, Lord, until they rest in thee. Augustine's life turned toward level 4, that there was more. He needed a home. He needed relief from this alienation and this meaninglessness, that all of the success in the world wasn't enough, because he had an inkling of who God was, and that he could find his home only in God, that his heart would rest only in God. Now, it seems to me that moving from level 3 to level 4, as St. Augustine found himself doing in his life, is the most difficult transition between the different levels of happiness. I think there's 2 reasons for that. One is that it requires, at least for me, a spiritual maturity to come to understand better what level 4 looks and feels like. There's also the element of that level 4 dealing with eternal verities, with the transcendentals, the good, the true, and the beautiful. It's harder to put words on in a succinct fashion. It may be more something that we have to live through and pray through and come to understand in that fashion. Be that as it may, moving the United States Senator or St. Augustine or the millionaire benefactor from the good work that they do, no mistake about that, but the good work that they do, and moving that from that arena into an eternal arena, a level 4 happiness, where the work that they do, the activities they undertake, the relationships that they have, the loves that they foster and nurture are connected with God. That the good work leads the person from level 3 happiness to level 4 happiness, because they can see in the things that they do dimensions and elements, attributes of God himself. So we move from feeding the hungry, from gathering the dying in the streets of Calcutta, good work, it's important work. But we move from that to really a new place, truly a new place, where we understand that the blessings, the sustenance that we offer to those who hunger spiritually and physically, that we do that because that connects us with God, that it is something good that we do. It is true what we do, and it is beautiful. When we're in that space, that place of level 4 happiness, it becomes clear. It becomes a single package that we've entered into a relationship with God by the work that we do. And the other kinds of happiness, levels 1, 2, and 3, yeah, they're still there. And, I still do have a body, and yeah, I still love double cheeseburgers. And yes, level 2, I still do need to, drive myself in a sense to excel, to challenge myself, not to put you down, but to raise myself up with the grace of God. That level 2 stuff. And at level 3, yeah, I'm going to do the good work. And that will bring me joy. I will relate to others, and compassion and empathy is exercised, yes. But in the level 4 arena, I've come to see that the work that I do, the hopes that I have, are connected with God. So I say it's a tad elusive to precisely articulate that, but through trial and error, through prayer, through starts and stops and repetition, we come to see that there is a deeper happiness. It's not an easy happiness necessarily. It can be very trying, but yet there is an inner peace that comes from connecting ourselves and finding that cosmic home, to eliminate the alienation from all. And there's no longer a loneliness or an isolation, because we finally, in level 4 happiness, when we've got it down, we're always in process. But it comes increasingly to be a place where those restless hearts that we have, they finally begin to rest in the Lord. And that's level 4 happiness. Now, there's a great deal more that could be said about this topic, and I would like to pursue those in days to come. And let me know in the comments below how we can approach this. But one of the things that we do need to talk about is what the Christian life looks like in the level 4 happiness, what we use Jesus' teaching for, how we live out the Beatitudes, and how that brings us from a level 3 happiness to a level 4 happiness, how we can actualize this love that we know of God, how we can share that and spread that, how we can not only have this abstract appreciation of the transcendentals, but how we can physically be with others and move from 4 to 3 and 3 to 4, and to have a bi-directional stance between those two kinds of happiness. The other thing I want to say is that none of this, really, aside from my own struggles with moving from one form of happiness, my own struggles with cheeseburgers, but none of this, what I've presented, is my own. It comes from Jesuit Father Robert Spitzer, whose own life is, I think, witness to the truth of what I've offered here. Robert Spitzer, a brilliant man. I initially encountered him, I thought he was an astrophysicist, because he's always talking about the Big Bang and these very high-octane sorts of questions about the beginning of the universe. But it turns out he's not an astrophysicist. He's just a smart guy who knows lots of different things. His academic training is in philosophy and in Scripture. But I mentioned Spitzer. He's got a 4-volume set in the vein of what I've been talking about. And the first volume of that quartet is precisely on happiness. I'll put a link to it in the description below. So take a look at that, and you'll see a full explication far beyond what the little bit that I've been able to offer here. But I mentioned Spitzer. For the past 30 years or so, he's gradually going blind day by day, and He's in his second half of his 60s right now, and as I understand it, by and large, blind. Here is a man, PhD, world scholar, former university president, speaker, commentator, living large in the public arena, now in a situation where he needs people to take him from place to place. His previous ability to come and go as he pleased is now severely restricted. And he speaks about that in his books, how this kind of trial and tribulation has shaved the rough edges off of his ego and has yet brought him to a place where the happiness that he had before is now amplified and refined and purified, that his ego drives as this great academic have been muted, so that now his focus is to dwell in level 3 and level 4 happiness. Here's a guy going blind, brilliant man, as I say, is able to navigate through the trials of his life to a place of solid joy and solid happiness. So whatever I've offered, it comes from Spitzer, and his life is testimony to the validity of what he says. So that's Spitzer. Book is below. Take a look at that. If this video has offered anything of benefit to you, I'm greatly pleased. I guess that would be level 3 happiness. Yeah, that would be level 3 happiness. So give me some level 2 happiness. Hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And there's an alert button, a little bell. Hit that so that you can be notified of when I put the next video up. So in the meantime, until we're together again, be happy. Be happier. Be level 4 happy. May God bless you. I look forward to our further conversation.